were kids. Half our population's under 15. I know it's very much the same all over the world. But here, we are always wondering if Greenland will be ready for them. The town where I live has become modern almost overnight. From faraway Europe and nearby North America, people and ideas are arriving every day on our island, which was once out of bounds to foreigners and inaccessible anyway. In the words of this song, which my grandfather wrote, boats have engines nowadays we used to paddle. Kayaks is what grandfather was thinking about. We never lived in igloos. There's no wood, we had stone. Now we import material things and demand us to go with them. The coffee pot and the coffee party too. Only women fished in the old days. Men were hunters and taught their sons to hunt. Now they work 9 to 5, men and women both. And the children learn from others things their fathers never knew. Eskimo is not a word in our language. We call ourselves Galaslit and the Danes Kashunet. Hanging loose or irresponsible. Our young men have imported a lifestyle a lot like the one their parents were asked to leave behind, in order that Greenland might become a modern society. Kitchenware in Danish and Greenlandic. Danish we learn at school, used for business. Greenlandic is our mother tongue. For imported objects, we have to use imported words, and there are lots of them. The surprise for visitors is not that things are different, but that so many familiar things can be found at the Arctic Circle and about. Familiar things, children, fountains, squirting games. And so, as might be expected, there is discontent too. The song says in Greenlandic, not Danish, there must be some changes made. Our discontent may be hard to understand. Now we're better off than ever before. And some say we're ungrateful. Well, you have to know the background. Greenlanders are Danish citizens, but Danes who contract to work here get tax benefits, which neither we nor Danes in Denmark get. Some 4,000 of them. Of us, close to 40,000, and getting closer yearly. Intermarriage is commonplace. It does not affect legal status and hasn't since 1953. Then we were a colony. As a colony, we were kept isolated. The motive was the best, to save us from the evil ways of white men. So during those centuries of quarantine, we were falling farther and farther behind technologically. We worshipped God, honored our parents, kept the law, practiced the art of literature and music, and some claim we were better off in our Arctic Eden, planted by a Danish missionary in 1721. Hans Egede came looking for vanished Vikings. Hans Egede was a pious man. The Vikings were gone, but we were here. Hans Egede converted us to Christianity.
Lys I kraft av ditt forsyns lys. Vi har kommet til dere med et budskap av fred I Herre Jesu Kristi navn.
There were great men and good men among the Danes who followed, seeking wealth from the seal, walrus and whale. And there was one who saw that Christianity had suppressed customs vital to our endurance and provided no alternatives. Self-government and, ultimately, our written law we owe to Heinrich Rink. Danes like this man we gladly honor and celebrate their anniversaries with cordial goodwill. We, the people of Galashiq Nunat, had been visited by Europeans earlier, too. We were frightened by the sound of their approach, as we were meant to be. They, too, were Christians, the Vikings Hans Egede came looking for. What we see today was all he found. They had built well, Eric the Red and his settlers from Iceland, but they had vanished. Did their livestock die off and the Vikings starve? Or did they succumb to disease, a change of climate, a massacre? We do not remember. About our own history, nothing was written down. That we had been here a long time. That we settled here after crossing from what is now Canada, we had always supposed. The evidence for this modern scholars have provided. Our coming was a simple matter of geography. If our ice cap ever melted, it would mean a worldwide cataclysm. But the Earth's attitude to the sun would have to change before that, for most of Greenland lies within the Arctic Circle, that imaginary line. Our nearest neighbor is Canada. 20 miles to Ellesmere, our closest contact is Denmark now. 4,000 years ago, migrations began to move in waves, advancing and retreating, unifying language and culture across the north. The final wave, the one we know as the Thule culture, arrived in time to witness the advent of the Vikings. Induced by Eric the Red, 25 ships set out from the Iceland colony. 14 arrived, and the fjords, for the first time, echoed barnyard noises. Eric's sons reached Vinland. One was buried there. Leif the Lucky returned to die a Christian death. 500 years later, all had vanished. A coastal rim is free of ice and inhabitable. The north has oil and minerals and an access problem. So for now, the population is concentrated in the southwest, 10,000 in Gottorp, the capital. And like urban centers everywhere, it flourishes while the small towns die. The flakes used to be full. The fish have moved away, or foreign trawlers are taking what the gill netters used to catch. Many villages are suffering. We have a song about how fine it was here in Colonial, but people are leaving. The government's resettling them. It's economics. So kids grow up in the cities and forget the words to the song, how fine it was in Colonial, the place where I was born.
Sanamig, we know Suterakatumig. Somi ang utawit, imiyasaki siari nusuti. We niyak supiyog.
An international jamboree of scouts and guides sounds tame enough. But foreigners until 1953 were not admitted, and now here they are. Their horizons seem unlimited as they talk of travel, education and careers. Our horizons were keeping us back, keeping us together all the same. The ships that call at Gottorp are of international registry. Crews come ashore. The overwhelming glamour of the wide, wide world has reached Greenland's shores, luring the young away, feeding those who are left with discontent. Worldliness is still pretty superficial among us, but that's changing. Little Europeans is what they're growing up as. Their point of view we don't understand. The new housing has improved their health. It is clean, warm, dry, and foreign. You can't just pack up and move, of course. You apply. And according to the size of your family, not your bank account, an apartment may be made available. And it's no use looking in the local paper. The architecture is Danish, uniform, and uncongenial to at least one Greenlandic custom. even though some tenants may feel their good fortune. By tradition, we are hunting people because the farmland is after all very limited, and the market within walking distance of the modern apartments offers alternatives to the shops and department stores. Game and other delicacies our palates are accustomed to and our bodies need. These and the opportunity to bargain, gossip, and recall village life as it used to be. Inconveniences, the lack of central heating and running water, make life in this part of town tough to bear. Some people are just waiting for an apartment to move into, but others will never leave. They are content here in Mosquito Valley. It can't be subtracted from our way of life. Even though we have packaged foods, stoves, refrigerators, our taste for the great nourisher of Eskimo body and Eskimo spirit. The words of the song contain this advice. Did it go down the wrong way? Give him a slap on the back. Not mock chuck, please. Met deck. Town life is more impersonal than village life, but not altogether inhuman. This home for unwed mothers does a job once happily performed by family and neighbors. It is a welfare community that needs the home and can provide it. Our women become mothers 5 times on the average. Of all births, half are illegitimate. The generation to succeed us, half of whom will grow up with only one parent, or none at all. And yet it is this generation that has the best chance of living to become adults that Greenlanders ever had. The generation that preceded us was never so comfortable back in their villages of Colonial or Tesiusak. Comfort and care they get, and no one is saying that's a substitute for anything, but comfort and care they do get, and companionship if they should want it. books translated into Greenlandic, as well as Danish, offer new horizons of adventure to youngsters who knew only tales of the seal hunt, whose world was limited to the village. But books on Greenland are beginning to call the imagination back home.
Den grønlandske befolkning boede i tørvemurshuse. Som I ser på tegningen her, var disse tørvemurshuse fremstillet af
better instruction, better equipment, earlier enrollment. A more practical preparation for the world they will have to tackle is available to town children. Higher education means Denmark. Fewer than half a dozen students from our island have ever graduated from a university. But soon, there will be so many more to try. Meanwhile, there are vocational schools for teachers, nurses' aides, and mechanics. The sea has always yielded our livelihood, such as it was. But sheep were first imported by the Vikings to provide meat and wool for their sails and their clothes. The shepherd of the old ballads is a businessman now, as Greenland attempts to get its economy going. Laplanders have been invited here to teach us their expertise, for from Lapland the reindeer have been introduced to swell the native herds of caribou, which are allowed to run wild and at round-up time each year must be scouted before they can be corralled. A Laplander has to demonstrate lassoing, for caribou were hunted by Greenlanders, but never roped. Punching reindeer is too much like punching the clock, too systematized. Hunters is what we always been, and this modern business of ranching, we are inclined to resist. We hunted the land when we were hungry, and we hunted the sea. Trawlers, which harvest the sea, are efficient, profitable, and run by routine. The old fight for survival, but the new fish plant, replacing the empty flakes of Inuk, must be supplied systematically and abundantly. Work for the new populations from the villages. Steady work. Too steady. Who, we ask, is being processed? Greenland's most important natural resource is fish, an inexhaustible resource we trust. The independence we lose to the production line, we shall try to buy back by sending our fish to the world market. Johannes Kreuzmann knows the words to the old song, the fisherman's song. Äälitartut qangatut. Work hard, they say, win a future and riches for your country. But the old songs just don't suit the new times. Johannes Kreuzmann, fisherman, lives in Gottorp, the capital. It's his daughter Ilse's first day at school. The Kreuzmann parents accompany her on an occasion that is marked by ceremony and celebration. The principal's welcoming address will have to be translated, for many of the parents, as well as beginning students, speak Greenlandic only. The event is considered worth dressing up for, particularly by those who still own galashisut, the national costume. The welcome sign is in Greenlandic, but it is into a Danish world the parents are relinquishing their children, where the language of authority, the skin color of authority, the values authority instills are suddenly foreign to the child. The effect is sometimes a severe emotional disturbance. It is a highly emotional time for the parents, too.
Og så få en rød hat.
Du må få en ny kjole, men du må få en rød hat.
Ja, tak.
Nu har jeg skål.
Ja, og
Han laver mål.
Fru Hansen's husband is a teacher too. When Greenlanders are the ones to introduce the children to these new disciplines, the adjustment is much more happily made. Mrs. Kreuzmann now has all three of her children in school. She is free to take part-time work to augment the family income. These are worrisome times. Johannes Kreuzmann, fisherman, has lost his boat and now has to work for others. Jobs are scarce for people coming to town. Kreuzmann must consider himself fortunate. Without Ilse, the family do a shopping for a surprise party. Tonight, Ilse's uncle and aunt, her cousins and friends, are coming over to help her celebrate her first day at school.
Hej!
Private life in Greenland is not everywhere so sober and peaceful. Public life has, in general, been just that in the past. But now, the young people are bringing a more abrasive opinion to politics and the polls. The fishing industry of the island is the prime concern of the provincial council, elected to advise the Greenland governor, a Danish appointment. And accumulating pollution is also within the council's province, but health services come under the jurisdiction of the Danish parliament, to which Greenland elects 2 members. Alcohol has encouraged theft and violence, once rare crimes, and laws to control its use have been passed. In addition to the provincial council, there are regional councils, 17 of them. An administrator represents the governor. Housing and the allocation of housing occupy their meetings regularly. Members are from the towns and little communities around them. It's felt they don't have equal say. The unequal preference shown to Danes in hiring and discrimination in wages frequently occupy the councils. They wield few powers. They can do little more than make recommendations, even on matters as important as domestic transportation, a vital subject in a country with streets but no highways. Over the seas in Denmark lies authority, because from over the seas comes the $100 million a year to keep us going. Greenland was named by Eric the Red. Some say he was giving a snow job to prospective settlers. Our name for our island is Galasik Nunat, which possibly means the land of the people who wear parkas with an extra tailpiece. We needed them. He was high, grass, acid, speed, I don't know, thought he could swim. It happens everywhere, of course. But he was the first Greenlander to go that way. So finally we are catching up to the rest of the world. Not all of us like raw fish. I don't eat blubber. and beefsteak is becoming popular. But some things are unchanging. A language which is secure, an identity as a people. And for our children, the special knowledge the 20th century has given us. And it cannot be changed now that the days of our innocence are over forever.
Kisap tiok tuat tap tuji